And word is, if someone is consumed in the study of Torah, and word reaches them that Mashiach has come, what would be the appropriate thing to do? Continue to study, or greet Mashiach?
Well, where is Mashiach? Is he here? Is he in Washington, D.C.? Is he in Yerushalayim?
He's walking down by Ola.
He's walking down by Ola? Yes, you should go greet him.
If he's in Yerushalayim, should you take a flight to go see him, or should you...
Not until it becomes a general movement. Because obviously there is a process. The Geula, even once Mashiach comes, doesn't occur all at once. So it's not necessary that you actually immediately go to be Makabel him. But yes, just like you are Mevatel Torah in order to be Mesamech Chassan V'Kala, you would be logic in this case to Mevatel Torah in order to greet the Goel and give him as much support. Not covered. Support. What do you mean doesn't need your support? Mashiach's not a supernatural guy. He's going to have tough... Yeah, but we assume if he's walking down Viola Road, he probably isn't. Right?
In your case, he's not.
Yeah.
The traffic stopped,
Yeah.
So, isn't there a place, and I don't know where, in the Gemara, that there are people in the base Medrash learning, and there's a tumult outside, and people start getting up, they pause from learning because they think maybe Mashiach's out there.
No.
And they're told it doesn't matter, you're learning. Your learning is over that of Mashiach.
It's a cool story, but I don't know anything about it. There is the Gemara in Megillah talks about whether you're Mevatel Talmud Torah to build a base HaMikdash. In other words, you take Tinokos Shabeis Rabbon, children out of school, and it's not talking about older students. There might be a different halacha, but children out of school in order to build the base HaMikdash, and it's an issue. What?
Child labor?
Yes, child labor. Yes. Child labor is only illegal when it's compensated. When it's free, then there's no problem with it. So we soon they want to volunteer to build the base on it.
Russian guy quit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we get the worst ones to do.
So does that answer the question?
Okay, can you speak about Mordechai Eliyahu?
Why?
Who? He was lifted today.
Oh, Baruch Adanemis. I didn't know that. I don't know that much about Mordechai Eliyahu's derech in Psak and in his machshava. I really don't know that much about him. He obviously was a very well-respected person, and he obviously was a very sincere person, and he certainly had a great following of people who were very into sincere avodas Hashem and sincere love of Torah and Eretz Yisrael. More than that, I do not know. I don't know. I never read his material. There's a lot of material of his on the web, but I have never read any of his material.
So I'm saying, he was also a halachic authority, so would the Sephardim go, did anybody override Rabbi Ovadia nowadays, or not? Did he override Rabbi Ovadia or not? On this specific following, just...
it could well be that Rav Mordechai Eliyahu would argue with Rav Ovadia Yosef on certain points, and he had a slightly different following than Rav Ovadia.
Is the guy at Telch?
Sorry?
Is he the guy at Telch or Cleveland or somewhere?
No. Rabbi Eliyahu was a prior Sephardic chief rabbi of the state of Israel. So he had a slightly different following than Rav Ovadia, and he had a slightly different approach. He was much more hawkish, militant than Rav Ovadia, and he was more closer to religious Zionist circles than Rav Ovadia was. So it's possible that Rabbi Eliyahu and Rav Ovadia would not have seen eye to eye on something, and that people would follow Rabbi Eliyahu if they were closer to him. But I don't know offhand of any specific circumstances in which that occurred. It stands to reason that there were some.
You know the Medrash that states that in the time of Mashiach, that there will, on the Temple Mount there will be two peoples, Jews and someone else.
Heard that, yeah.
And they will offer a kabbalos.
It's going to be the Muslims and us. That's nothing.
Okay. And
how come I don't know these midrashim?
I told you this, but
it's very hard to find.
It's hard
to find.
Very hard to find.
Rabbi Katz brought it one of his shurim.
Okay.
And Rabbi Stitsky brought it in one of the shurim.
Yeah, so what does it say?
It says that these two groups will offer a korban, and see which will be accepted by Hashem.
Well, since
and Yishmael's korban will be accepted.
It's going to be a test.
And a lot of Yidden will go to the other side. They're going to go to the other
It's
side.
going to test the Jews.
And the true ones will stay to the good side.
It's probably a
The
mushroom.
good force. Right.
Very weird.
Why would people?
It's the last
I mean, it just
second.
seems that if you were to see Hashem accept,
I don't think if they just, even if this marriage exists, listen, Rabbi Isaac, whether this marriage exists or not, I don't know. I'm skeptical. Let's stipulate.
Not literal, though.
Yes. What it means is quite obvious. It means that you see today that Bnei Yishmael have tremendous success in the world, and Hashem seems to be listening to their tefillos. And Klal Yisrael does not have tremendous success in the world, and Hashem doesn't seem to be listening to our tefillos. So there's an Isayon here. It would seem that Bnei Yishmael have the ear of God to a greater extent than the Jewish people. In fact, somebody who probes beneath the surface will see that that's not the case, because what are they asking God? Nothing. At best, they're asking God to annihilate the Jews, and God's not doing that, right? So, in essence, even though they are powerful and have all sorts of successes, their tefillos are not being heard. Yes.
I don't understand what you mean by what are they davening for? Are they davening for the same thing as us?
World peace?
I mean,
Mashiach?
no, not Mashiach. I mean, like
No, they don't.
everyone like would pray to God for.
I'm talking about national. I'm not talking about individual prayer. I'm talking about their national prayer. It was the prayer for their success as a united cause.
Mention like that to the Jews like more than they mention giving money.
Wait, how do you know? Do you understand Arabic?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
And you listen to them pray?
Yes.
You really have.
I have to listen to something.
It's
But
very
you don't
loud.
have to, but you know. So you know something, but you haven't looked into it. I can't copy that.
Anyway,
These truths that are self-evident.
I think that a national destiny for a Muslim, something which would unite all Muslims, is to eliminate the infidels, Christians and Jews, Buddhists,
Elimination, not
Hindus.
conversion.
What?
What's
I
the
understood.
difference?
I understood that they would do conversion.
Yeah, I don't mean elimination as in terms of killing them. Eliminating these perspectives from the world.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So their prayer is not being accepted, obviously, because these denominations, these religions still exist, and they exist in great strength. And even though our prayers are not being accepted, that the Mashiach should come and that we should have the ultimate geula, and therefore it is a temptation, it's a test, that maybe, since our tefillos are not accepted, and they are much more powerful, maybe it's that their tefillos are accepted. But I don't think that this is a test which it's hard to defeat, because I don't see that much attractive in Islam for a person who is Jewish.
Okay, given that, though, I mean, if you were to look at it from an open perspective, you'd see that if they had, that was their national destiny, they seem to be doing it pretty well. I mean, they are spreading, in the Sudan they are, and all over Europe they are. It seems like Christian Europe is in decline, the Christian world is in decline. It's not where it was at the time of the Crusades. The Jewish world, the number of total Jews in the world is going down. So
No, actually, it's going up.
from an
It's
open
wrong.
perspective,
It's going up.
the amount of Haredim in the world is going up. The amount of Jews total is going down.
No, it's also going to go up.
No,
The more
total
Haredim you have-
amount of Jews is going down.
The more
look at
Haredim you have, the
numbers.
more kids you have, so it's only going to go up.
Like I
It's
said,
going down.
so you're giving a proof for me. I said the amount of Haredim in the world is going
It's-
down.
it's-
The amount of total Jews in the world is going down.
No, if the more.
In any event, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. So let that be part of the Nisayon. You know what? You're making the Nisayon a greater Nisayon, right? Because the Arabs are having success, or the Muslims are having success in conquering Europe by numbers as opposed to by war. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would make the Nisayon greater. But Lamaisa, in my opinion, the Nisayon is not so great because Islam is not attractive. It's to a Jew, Islam is not attractive. Christianity is also not that attractive, but the society in which you live is Christian, so therefore, you might go with the flow. But Jews don't live in Arab countries anymore, mostly speaking, right? So there's certainly no, and even when they did, they were repelled by the Muslims for the most part, so there's no incentive to convert to Islam when you're separate from them.
They're growing.
Right, so the question might be if someday, Muncie is inundated with Muslims, whether the Vishnitzer Hasidim are then going to feel some drive to convert to Islam.
The robes.
I doubt it, but you never can tell what will happen. It's strange people. So both sides. So therefore, I don't know. But I don't think that is such a. I don't think it's such an Isaiah.
What is Goel?
What?
Goel.
Goel?
Goel.
A redeemer.
Like so, like Goel.
Gula, right? The Goel brings the Geula. Okay. Did we deal with this medrash, this supposed medrash, alleged medrash?
I dealt with it close.
Yeah.
So what? No,
Okay.
one point of the medrash. Somebody was sitting at the table. Somebody mentioned that. So Rabbi Akiva Tatz, he has a Rebbi, a rabbi that he, I guess, listens to Ghost by,
That's
and he
it.
asked him, "Is this medrash literal or like metaphorical?" And the rabbi said, "No, it's literal. This is how it's going to happen." And so when I said, "Well, I just said I disagree with that rabbi," so I basically said that's like almost it's nonsense. So am I wrong for disagreeing with a rabbi on his interpretation of the
Rabbi
medrash?
does it all the time.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy.
I'm saying I can do that.
You know what my answer is going to be. Why are you asking me this
I'm
question?
asking what psak by me. Am I allowed to do that? Even though
Yes.
nothing. Am I allowed to do it with a rabbi and his interpretation of the
Yes.
medrash? Yes.
Yes. Okay? But bear in mind who's giving you that answer. And my temper matters. I wanted to share with you something which actually I heard last Thursday night and some thoughts I had on it. Last Thursday night, my daughter graduated from
Where?
graduate school in YU. She has a master's in education, just general Jewish education. And the guest speaker was Rabbi Dr. Abraham J. Twersky.
Oh, the psychologist?
Yeah, psychiatrist.
From where did this live in Jersey?
He now lives in Teaneck. Yeah, he used to live in Muncie,
And he used to be in Colorado before?
Pittsburgh. Colorado was his brother. So he is always a phenomenal speaker. He's an amazing person. So he said many very good things, but there are a few things which I felt.
College?
No, it's Azrieli. It's a graduate school. So the few things which I felt are very worthwhile sharing, and I had my own thoughts while he was speaking, which I also want to share with you. And he stood, and this is not all he said, but these are things which struck me. He said we have a chazal, a Gemara, which tells us that I think it's on his Sanhedrin. Kol hamulamed es ben chaviro Torah maleh lo v'koso kilu yelado. Anybody who teaches his friend's son Torah, the pasuk, the scripture, maleh love, considers upon him, as you normally translate it, it means he is given the credit as if he gave birth to that child. Because he, by raising him in Torah, is in essence the same thing as a parent visiting their child. So normally the way we take that Gemara is as a bracha, as a reward. In other words, if you teach somebody else Torah, then it's as if you are their parents and you get rewarded for that. But the way he said it doesn't contradict that idea, but it supplements the idea. The Torah, that literally translates as the Torah places upon him as if he gave birth to this child that he's teaching. So what does that mean? It means that a person who teaches his friend's child Torah has the same responsibility for that kid as if he's a parent. It's not just a reward, it's also responsibility. You, just like a parent is responsible for the proper raising of a child, a Rebbi, a mechanech, is also responsible for the proper raising of a child. And therefore, he has to be very careful in imparting to the child what is critical for the child's development. What is that? So Rabbi Twersky said, the fundamental thing which a parent has to impart to a child concerning Yiddishkeit is simchas hachaim, to have joy in life. He started off his speech with a statistic. He said that a study was recently done which indicated that Jewish males are twice as prone to depression as non-Jewish males.
I would think it's opposite.
You would?
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Yeah, purpose.
Yeshiva Buchim are the most depressed people in the world, aren't they?
No, that's
Maybe we should
that's
change
not
something,
because-
What?
No, I don't think so. I think when you gain 60, 70, 80, that range, I think it would be the opposite with you.
What can I tell you?
Maybe they're more stressed out. I agree with that.
Oh!
But not depressed. stress and
I think that stress and depression are very much linked to each other. Don't you agree?
one will lead to the other, but
Yeah. So I think what this statistic indicates that people, even though they feel a sense of purpose in life, perhaps, although I'm not sure everybody has that sense of purpose in any event, but nevertheless, there is this tremendous sense of burden, whether it's financial, psychological, sociological, emotional, intellectual, all of them, all the above, which causes many people to not manifest simcha, to not manifest and radiate joy and happiness in life. Sorry?
Lack of emunah.
Yeah, well, of course, it ultimately comes down to a lack of emunah, but the lack of most people don't realize that. Most people don't understand that a lack of simcha is indicative of a lack of emunah, and a lack of emunah leads to a lack of simcha. It's a very perceptive thing, but not everybody has that perception.
is it emunah bitachon?
What?
Is it emunah bitachon?
Emunah leads to bitachon, bitachon leads to simcha. They're connected. Okay, emunah to bitachon to simcha. Okay, but the core is always emunah. Chazon said that. He says emunah is a midah, bitachon is a midah. Emunah, you can have less emunah. You can have the statement of belief. I believe in God. And I believe Torah is from Sinai, etc., which is a very basic statement. And then you can expand on this in your midos and make this something which is more intrinsic and inherent in your soul and in your heart. And a person who has greater emunah will also have greater bitachon. His trust in God will increase as a result as well. A person who has greater trust in God has greater simcha, because he trusts that what goes on in life is good for him. Again, it might not be good for him the way he wants it to be good, but it's good in the ultimate sense. And that Hashem is concerned with him, and that things which he's involved with will ultimately come to their proper fruition. So, this is something which a parent has to impart to their child, and many parents are not successful in doing. Why? Because, again, many of us have stress and pressure and difficulty which prevent us from manifesting simcha. Now, when a Rebbi is teaching, said Rabbi Twersky, the paramount value, the paramount lesson he has to impart is simchas hachaim, is the joy and happiness of Talmud Torah. Just like there's a joy and happiness in life in general, which is the life of a Jew in its totality, which is the parent's job, there is specifically the simcha in learning, which a Rebbe is supposed to impart to his Talmidim. Now, this is important because a lot of times a Rebbe sees his job has nothing to do with simcha, has to do with imparting data, imparting skills, right? Imparting a curriculum and giving grades. And Rabbi Twersky stressed very often the environment which is created in schools as a result of the actual focus, opposed to the ideal focus, is one of competition. And competition leads intrinsically to stress and depression. And the competition, although it has its advantages, in a large sense is a bad thing. So, the simcha gets lost in the shuffle. That simcha of Talmud Torah, which is critical, is not there. And he very interesting, I don't know, it's not a raya, but a very interesting ramification of this lack of imparting the simcha of Talmud Torah. He said, if you would have asked his brothers who learned in Torah Vodas in the 1930s where they learned, so they would have said they're learning by Reb Shlomo. Reb Shlomo Hyman was the Rosh Hashiva in Torah Vodas in the 1930s. You ask a bacher in Lakewood in the 1940s where he was learning, he'd say he's learning by Reb Aaron Kotler. You ask a bacher in Yeshivas Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan in YU in the 1950s where he was learning, he would say by the Rav, by Rabbi Soloveitchik. Nowadays, we ask a bacher where he's learning, he'll tell you in Torah Vodas, in Lakewood, in YU. What's the difference? So, obviously, you shouldn't take this as being, definitive, but the way, and that's anybody who says by has different attitude than anybody who says in. But the notion which he stresses that once upon a time, Talmud Torah was based on hiskashrus, a bond between Rebbe and Talmud. And when there's a bond between Rebbe and Talmud, that is intrinsically linked to, it generates, is linked to, and imparts simcha from one to the other. Just like when you're learning very well with a chavrusa, right? Let's say you have a stretch where you're learning extremely well for some period of time. So it makes you very happy, right? So that same thing is supposed to be the phenomenon which takes place between a Rebbe and a Talmud. A sense of simcha because of the process one is in. And the excitement generated by the Kedusha and the Avodah and the intellectual stimulation, of course, which is in Talmud Torah. But nowadays, yeshivas no longer have that sense of hiskashrus to a specific individual, to a Rebbe, who is somebody by whom I am learning not just the contents of Torah, but the entire essence of Torah.
It used to be just in the 1930s and 40s, 50s, and 60s. There weren't that many Bachar in yeshiva, and
granted, absolutely, there are reasons for it.
my point is, when you were one of the selected 50 individuals that was learning by the Rav, you say, I'm learning by the Rav. When you were one of 40 by Rabbi Chaim, you said, I'm learning by Rabbi Chaim. When you were one of 1,000 in Lakewood.
Absolutely. There are very good reasons why the system is the way the system is, and why people say I'm learning in Lakewood as opposed to learning by X, Y, Z. But in my opinion, this Rabbi Trusky did not say. There is a flip side to this, as a Rebbe loses focus on what is really his job. Somebody told me today, a friend of mine, that the head of the Talmud department in one of the co-ed high schools, one of the Orthodox co-ed high schools, if one can say that they're Orthodox, his other job, what he does also as one of his sidelines in his work in the school, is that when they have basketball games, between different yeshivas, between different schools, so he goes between quarters and shoots T-shirts into the crowd. No, it's not in a co-ed school, not in an OTA. So you can't imagine Rav Shlomo Hyman shooting T-shirts or Rabban Karla shooting T-shirts into the crowd in the Lakewood Chaim Berlin games, right? Now this this is an extreme example. This is, of course, in a quote co-ed school, which we would not expect necessarily there to be any Torah SMS involved, but. It's important to us to know that Rabbeim also don't have, and I include myself in this, the sense of mission and purposefulness, which is essential in order to be able to impart the essence of Torah, as opposed to the content of Torah. And the content is not as important as the essence. Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, this also is Rabbi Truskin mentioned, of course, but it's interesting. He says, we say in Agora, he has a whole essay. He says in Agora, right? If Hashem just brought us to Har Sinai, not giving us a Torah, it would have been enough. Right? So the question is obviously, what's the point of being before Har Sinai and not receiving the Torah? And the answer given by many authorities is because the fire of Sinai, the Kailos Ubrakim and the Eish Adlev HaShamayim instilled Yiras Shamayim, Yiras Hashem in Klal Yisrael. And that's a separate value, and in fact even it's a precondition value to accepting Torah. So it's not just enough to impart the content of Torah, the Torah of Sinai, but it's just as important, and perhaps even more important, to impart the fire of Sinai. That intense emotion, which is the essence of experiencing Torah, and which makes Torah what Torah is. So, that was, Rabbi Trusky said much more than that, but those are very powerful points, which I think are very, very significant. And then I was thinking, while he was speaking, about the word chinuch. The word education in Hebrew is, the word in Hebrew education is chinuch. Ches, yud, nun, vav, chav, sofis. Like any other Hebrew word, this is a ches. Ches, yud, nun, vav, chav. Like any other Hebrew word, it has a...
Can you use the black marker? You can't really show up on the video.
If you look hard enough.
There we go.
The shoresh of chinuch is, in other words, there's a 3-letter shoresh in every Hebrew word, is chanach. Ches nun chaf.
The name,
Right? In Aramaic. Not in Hebrew, in Aramaic it's a name. So there was a fellow in the early 20th century, his name was his name was Rabbi Aaron Marcus. He was a Chassidish fellow who was also a bit of a broad-minded individual, and he wrote a book on diktuk, among other books. And one of his theories, which I like very much, is that every 3-letter shoresh has a 2-letter core with an additional letter added on to differentiate from other words which are similar. Let me explain.
It's based on Hirsch?
No, this is his. He was a fan of Rabbi Hirsch, but Rabbi Hirsch himself does not use this principle. Sorry?
Anyone else say this?
I have never seen anybody say it before.
I've
Anyone
seen
believe it?
Somebody else.
Didn't
I believe it.
Besides you.
I don't know.
Even Arizona that said that a word that existed to a chart, it was possible to have
Yeah, they
a word
do. Yeah.
It's possible what?
to even have a two-word.
Yes, but I mean, there are Rishonim. It's Meir Machlin is showing if there are 2-letter shroshim, only 3-letter shroshim.
Well, yeah, we have two
There was
Right.
there was an
no?
answer that answered that.
But that's not material. I mean, even if that's only 3-letter shroshim, we could still break it down into 2 and 1, right? Let's say we hold like Rashi. Rashi holds also 2-letter shroshim. Let's say I think it's a Radak maybe who says only 3-letter shroshim.
How would you do with the word hen?
What?
Hen.
Chen?
Yes.
It's not the word chen has a shoresh which is hanan.
Why wouldn't be easy to say hen is a shorish?
No, because a shoresh is always in the verb form. The noun can drop a letter. It's the verb which has to have 3 letters to it. Okay? So chen is a state of grace. To be gracious is a verb, right? And that would be hanan would be part of that. But that of course leads me to what I was wanting to say, which is in chinuch, chanach is made up of a ches nun and a chaf. Why is that? So chen is the essence of chinuch. Because the Gemara says in Ksuvas and Avodah Zarah it says that Torah is malach chen al lomdeha. Elsewhere the Gemara says that there are 3 chinos. There are 3 types of chen. There's chen isha baila. There's a certain grace which a woman has in the eyes of her husband. There's chen makam al yosha. There's a certain grace which a place has in the hearts of its inhabitants. And there's chen megach hamikchu. There's a certain grace which something which you purchased has upon you, the purchaser. In all these cases, there's kind of this intangible chemistry, which gives you an affinity, a feeling, a sense of connection to the place, to the wife, and to the object or the thing which you bought. Okay? If you have, let's say, hypothetically, a pen, right? A pen, you feel a certain sense of affinity to your pen, which you don't feel to somebody else's pen. And the Mekubalim speak about this, by the way. The Mekubalim say that everything a person gets has a special connection to his shorish and neshama, to the soul, and that's why that affinity exists. And that's why Yaakov Avinu, when he left behind small pitchers on the other side of the river, he went back to get them, because of the tremendous affinity that Tzaddik has for everything which Hashem has made part and parcel of his sphere of ownership. But in any event, the Gemara says there, elsewhere, in Ksuvas and Avodah Zarah, that Torah also is malach chen alom deh. There's a special chen which Torah has upon those who learn it, upon those who study Torah. What does that mean? That means there's a special affinity. There's not necessarily any chen. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know. Between a historian and history. Between a mathematician and mathematics. Maybe there is a chen, maybe there isn't a chen. One can argue the point. One could say that there is a special chen which a mathematician has for math, a special chemistry which he has, special chen that a historian has for history. But by Torah, it's not a question of, there's nothing to argue about. Without that chen, Torah is not Torah. Because Torah is not just the wisdom of Torah, it's not just the knowledge, the data, the understanding of Torah, but it is the chemistry which makes the Torah an inseparable from me and from my life. So therefore, the purpose, the mission of a Rebbe is to impart that chen, the chen which he has accomplished in every Rebbe is a different level of chen. And hopefully when he gets Talmidim, since a person learns more from the Talmidim than anybody else, then he gets more chen, more of that chemistry, more of that connection. So that's what Tzadok HaKohen says. That's why it says, Mi Talmidei Yosim Mikulam, that I learned more than my students than anybody else. One of his interpretations is because since I have to be able to impart to your neshama what you need, so Hashem has to give me more than my personal neshama needed. Because the connection which you're supposed to have to Torah is different than my connection. So therefore, that connection, since I'm supposed to be the catalyst for your connection to take place, I have to be giving myself new connections. So how does that chen brought to the Talmud? So this is where the kaf comes in. The kaf is, there's a kaf which is always called the kaf hadimayom. Kaf hadimayom means the kaf of like. When I want to say X is like Y, I say X K Y, right? That it's like that thing. In Hebrew, the word, there's no word for it. There's the word domeh, but which does actually have a similar meaning. But there is a single letter which has that meaning, which is the kaf. So what does that mean? It means the ikar of chinuch is again not the imparting of the knowledge or the wisdom, but it's the emulation. The emulation, in other words, that a Rebbe should aspire to be a role model and not just to fake it. To fake it is much worse, but to really be a role model, and for this Talmud to aspire to be keh, like him. And that is the way the chen is passed from one to the other. The chen is passed to the other not by an act of instruction, but by an act of connection, hiskashrus, and emulation. Emulation means to adopt, to mimic what the Rebbe says and does, and that's why the Gemara says, "Chayv l'shanas b'loshen rabbo." A person is supposed to speak about things with the same terminology, same nomenclature, even the same mistakes that his Rebbe makes when he says things. In other words, if your Rebbe has a pronunciation which he messes up, let's say he has a lisp, right? So you should also talk with a lisp, right? Because that way, I don't think nowadays that people do that, but that way you are absorbing and becoming one with that which your Rebbe represents in terms of his Avodas Hashem. I want to give another example of a different Ches Nun combination.
You see that in your own students?
What?
That after a year being your students, they end up...
No, it's what's so depressing. I don't know if I'm successful.
No, you won't see it right away, but you see it in years now.
You have your students for 1 year?
Yeah, that's a good rationalization.
Over a period of
No, I tell you.
1 year.
I tell you that she spent a lot, because a lot of the Bachman that went to Yeshiva with, and like the ones who go to the day school, most of them sort of like, when they weren't around there, so they just went, more left and left and left and left. But then when they came back, and why they come back, it was something that the Rebbe told them in the 8th or 7th grade, so stuck to them. That's what I think. That's what I feel.
Yeah, it's, I'll tell you an interesting thing in that respect, which is that usually it's not the top Talmidim who you have that kind of hashpah on. Because the top Talmidim, they don't need you. They have their own independence and usually some degree of arrogance. And I know from my own experience. What? No. Yeah. So they don't feel that need to connect in that meaningful way. It's usually the people on the second level, or somewhat below the top, with whom you have that chance of having that kind of connection much more than the top. Anyway, I just want to give another example of a ches nun combination, which is the opposite. Right? We have the word chonef, which is ches nun pei. Chonef means, in proper English, a sycophant. A sycophant means somebody who involves himself in false flattery and kissing up to people in order to get his way and to achieve his own goals, and is totally insincere. Totally insincere. He's just doing it because this is the way that he can accomplish whatever purpose he has.
Does that have any attachment to Ghana?
What?
Ghana?
Well, it's interesting. Rav Shlomo Hirsch would definitely make that connection. Rav Shlomo Hirsch used to make connections based on similarities of that sort, and I think he probably won't have to look up in the etymological dictionary, the Hirsch etymological dictionary, to see if he makes that association. But that makes sense. It does make sense, yes. So but the word choned in and of itself, I think, has to do with chen, right? The same chen as before, but it's only pei. What does pei mean? Peh. What's peh?
No.
Mouth. It's where you are
Chain of the mouth.
the chain of the mouth. Isn't that good? It's where you express and you pretend to have that chain, as opposed to actually having that chain. Right. So that's another example. There's another example which I want to give, which is not as cute, but I want to say it anyway, which is because it struck me also. Chanak means to choke, right? Chenek is suffocation, right? It's very similar to chanach, right? Chanak. It's almost the same pronunciation, right?
Well, I don't know how you say that.
What?
Cool.
Yeah, but a chaf with at least for Ashkenazim, a chaf with a dagesh sounds like a kuf. Listen, I told you this one's not so cute, but nevertheless. Anyway, so I wanted to say it's like this. A chinuch is when it's one thing is like the other. They're similar. But chanak is, a kuf represents a kof. A monkey mimics without any, it's not just similar, it's a complete mimicry, which is shallow and bereft of any content. So that is suffocating. In other words, okay, this is, okay, so, it's making faces in the back. I don't know if I can go further with this.
Well, who's making faces?
You are going making faces. Anyway.
See what you have to finish it, get started, keep watching.
Right. So,
A kuf is something you make when you chokes and dies.
what? A cough.
No, like a kuf, he fell on the floor.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's the what really is symbolized by the kuf is the fact that it's the top is disassociated from the bottom and it's falling down. You're right. That's between chanak. What I said here is just it's just silly. But the difference between chanak and chana. Chana means to camp, right? An encampment is a machaneh, right? So chana means the chana means a place where you stop and where you build up something, right? And I think that has to do with the shape of a hay. There's a dalet and a yud. The dalet is the top part and the yud is the bottom part. And in there, machaneh, if it's a machaneh Hashem, a machaneh which is holy, so there are 4 sides in which you're supposed to have the Shem Hashem in the middle. But a kuf means that the Shem Hashem is, it's out of control, and things are dropping out and dropping down, and there's the things are disintegrating. Anyway, I see that I'm going too far with this, but yeah.
How about some resolutions? How are we going to avoid depression? All these problems, not having close to Rebbi?
I think that both. I can't speak for your own relationship with your Rebbi and or Sameach because I don't know how that is. But there is every person can find in some aspect of their avodas Hashem, preferably learning Torah, but not necessarily learning Torah. It could be in tefillah, it could be in chesed, it could be in other kinds of mitzvahs which a person might do, like for that matter, pursuits of kashrus or pursuit of what? Eruvin, right? Well, the problem with Eruvin is that the main simcha comes from postling people's Eruvin, so that's a problem. But so I don't know if that counts. But the idea of perceiving, being aware of, and attempting to enhance the experience of simcha in anything which one does in terms of avodas Hashem, and especially in the interaction a person has with a Rebbe. To have a sense, again, to identify that simcha, to enhance it, to experience it, in other words, be consciously aware of it. That's where there's something here which should make me happy, because I'm having this positive interaction in terms of my avodas Hashem with another person, or with a mitzvah, or with something that I'm learning, and that in of itself should be then enhanced, A, by its recognition, B, by attempting to expand it further, to pursue it as much as possible. So, a Rebbe certainly has to have in mind a conscious effort to bring that simcha to the relationship. A Talmud also can expand the simcha, not perhaps as effectively, but as a catalyst. In other words, if a Talmud is really into it, the Rebbe gets into it. And if they're both into it, then that simcha can take place. So that's why the idea is that there should be this interaction where simcha is just as important as the actual content of what you're doing. Because we very rarely pay attention, especially us Litvaks. We almost never pay attention to simcha. That's a problem. In this respect, we fall short of what the Torah expects of us. The Torah expects of us to experience simcha the tochacha. It says, very famous pasuk in Parashat Chukosa, that the golus comes, the punishments come to us, since you didn't serve Hashem with simcha, so, therefore you're punished. You can serve Hashem, but if you serve Hashem as a burden and it's not happy to you, A, it's lousy chinuch, B, it's not what Hashem wants. And that is just by rote and as a burden, and that leads to golus.
When the Rebbe has to teach his students, he wants to get them over a certain amount of information, right? He wants to progress in a certain manner, like you have a goal and an outline what you want to teach. When you're going away from that outline by making the class fun or what it is, it's very hard to achieve what you want to achieve at the end of the day. Let's say when we run, we only get done a certain amount of pages a day in the time. But the fact that you want to make us fun and having an interaction, ask questions, at the end of the day, you never get it done. So the amount of information you give over lessens the result.
True. It's worth the sacrifice.
It's worth the sacrifice.
Yes.
Even though when he's going to go to the next grade where he should have that information already packed, he's going to feel left out because the Rebbe may not have the same style of learning, or he just might have...
Right, because if he feels that simcha, he'll be incentivized to get it on his own. And it's most of the Torah you learn ultimately is really what you learn on your own. It's the inner essence of Torah which you have to have a Rebbe for.
No, that's a good question. The hinuk that a child or student gets is more so by a rabbi-talmud relationship or parents with son and daughter?
It depends. Every situation is different. Nowadays, because us parents, relinquish the job of chinuch to the schools to a very large extent, it's usually the schools. Okay, Rabbi said tomorrow night I'm not sure going to be here. I'll call. Who should I call? Let you know. You?
Anyone.
You? Okay.
Tell Messiah. Messiah, do you have all of our numbers?
What?
Yeah, but we have
Okay, tell Messiah.
All right.
Did you have a conference?
Oh.